There have been changes in your pricing model. Like,
Yes.
where is pricing going within the industry? And I'd love for you to talk about some of the changes that
Sure.
you've made at FareHarbor and why.
It is true that this industry before FareHarbor was a monthly recurring fee industry with potential setup fees.
Yeah.
And we change it completely. We say we don't want to benefit from this partnership unless we create benefits for you. So the model was we're going to make money only if the operator makes money. What has happened in the past 12 years is that the amount of clients that had a different way of running their business that wanted also to use our platform kept on increasing. So we have operators that have maybe 70, 80% of their bookings coming from OTAs. And we felt, okay, so how do we, if we continue with an online booking fee only, how can we serve clients that wants to be predominantly OTAs?
No, I get that, especially with the growth of OTAs. So when you introduced a 2% API fee for OTA bookings, what do you say to the operators who are like, wait, this has been free, now I got to pay for it. What's the additional value?
Welcome to the Best Part of Travel podcast, brought to you by Arival, where we take you inside the business of destination experiences. I'm Janelle Visser, and I'm here with Steve and Joyce.
Hi.
And today, we're going to be listening in on a conversation between the CEO of FareHarbor, Andrea Carini. He told me to say his name like that when I introduce him. FareHarbor is the travel experience sector's largest restech company or online booking system provider. And Andrea here is talking with Arival CEO Douglas Quinby about where online booking tech is going. This conversation took place at the recent Arival conference in Valencia, Spain. So, to kick things off, Steven, what's your favorite food or drink that you discovered in Valencia?
Favorite food has to be paella. It is kind of the signature dish of Valencia, and there's different varieties of it, but it is so good. Like, it's hearty, it's comfort, it's like comfort food.
Yeah.
It is Spanish comfort food. It's just like it would be the equivalent of like a casserole here. You know, if you get the seafood one, it's rice and all different kinds of fish and spices. And it's so good. The traditional one is made with rabbit.
Yeah, that was surprising.
Yeah, which I wasn't aware of.
No.
But that's okay. I've had rabbit before, so it's fine. It tastes like chicken, but just a little jumpier. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't taste like chicken. It's it definitely has a unique flavor, but it's a mild flavor. And then, with other meats as well, like sausages and other stuff. So
it's enough different than chicken that you're not in the Matrix where everything tastes like chicken, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're eating it and you're like, it kind of looks like chicken because it's a white meat. And so, when you're eating it, if you don't know it's rabbit to begin with, you might think, oh, it's it's a very gamey chicken.
Yeah. But okay, so that's how you know you're not in the Matrix, because rabbit tastes different than chicken. And
Yes.
these days you don't know. Like, are we?
No, we are. Are we AI?
Are we AI?
AI prompts?
Are we AI prompts?
No, I'm pretty sure we're real.
As far as I know, I'm not an AI, but we are talking about tech today. But first, my favorite thing I discovered in Valencia was not food, actually.
Really?
As much as I love food, it was a drink. So the first night I was in town, I went with Christina. We went out for dinner and we discovered something called Agua de Valencia, which is kind of like a mimosa, but then you add gin and vodka, I think. But it doesn't taste overpoweringly alcoholic. It just tastes very good. Which makes it a little bit dangerous, right? But
is that made with like the fresh Valencia oranges?
Yes, it's
orange
made
juice?
with the fresh oranges.
Oh,
And
that's what I
so-
should have said. The orange juice is so good.
It was so good. The orange juice also. It didn't even have
Oh my
anything
God.
in it. Orange
Yeah.
juice was so good.
So
And that's also how you know we're not robots, right? Like, do robots appreciate food? I don't know.
if we use Data from Star Trek as an example,
I was thinking of
whenever
Data,
he had,
yeah.
right, whenever artificial intelligence made real, because whenever he ate something, or because he could eat and drink, But
Yeah.
whenever he ate it, he didn't appreciate it emotionally. He
Right.
appreciated the chemical composition of whatever it was he was eating.
Right.
I would
Whoa.
like to think that in some ways we appreciate the chemical composition to a certain degree, but
Yeah.
it's the way that chemical composition interacts with our taste buds and olfactory senses and everything else that makes us appreciate that food. So who knows? Maybe we are AI or we're in a simulation.
Okay, well, we're going to take this simulation into the conversation with Andrea. But before we do that, a message from our podcast sponsor.
Protect Group offers a service called Refund Protect. The way it works is that an operator or a reseller offers Refund Protect at the time of checkout for an extra fee, usually around 10% of the ticket price. If the guest can't go for whatever reason, for an unforeseen circumstance, they request a refund from Refund Protect and they get 100% of their money back. The best part is the operator keeps 100% of their revenue and they make a little extra. So to find out more, go to protect.group/bestpartoftravel.
So, today we're talking about booking systems. We're specifically talking about FareHarbor, but one of the reasons I think this conversation is really important right now is there's a lot of changes happening in the booking system space, particularly for travel experiences, for tours, activities, and attractions. So, Stephen, you come from the restech world. You're kind of the OG restech guy. So from your perspective, what are some of the biggest changes you've noticed from the early days of restech until now?
I think one of the biggest things is just the proliferation of restech, right? I mean, when I launched Resgo back in the day, along with Tour CMS, maybe a couple of other ones, Tour Desk, maybe, a couple of other restechs. There were maybe 4 or 5 restechs that were available on the market at the time. And on the distribution side, there were only maybe 4 or 5 distributors. So the landscape for technology was very, very limited. Most of the other, like anybody that had a large operator, for example, that had ResTech, it was bespoke or custom built. Now, Arival is documented maybe 200 ResTechs and an equal, if not more, distributors on the distribution side. And Andrea mentions in the conversation that they've identified over 2,000 ResTech systems, but he's taking into account custom ResTech. So I think it's just really just the proliferation, the number of ResTech systems that are out there. That's the biggest thing for me, is just the availability of ResTech now. It was not really that available before. Now it is.
And one of the things that they talk about in this conversation, we'll get into in a minute, is pricing and changes to how the pricing structures are working as there's more people entering the space, but also as how travelers are booking is changing. More travelers booking through OTAs, for example. And so maybe before we jump into it, can you just share a little bit, how does the pricing work generally for ResTechs and operators?
Yeah, there's really 2 main pricing models in the ResTech space. One is subscription fee based, which is generally less common. And that is
so that's
a
like
subscription fee.
You pay what every
like
month?
Spotify. Yeah,
Like a set
like a
amount every
Spotify
month.
or Apple Music, a subscription fee or whatever. You pay $19.95 a month or $49 a month or whatever. And that's your fee to use the system.
Right.
And that works really well when you have thousands and thousands of operators or customers on your platform all paying the same amount. It works really well for really high scale SaaS platforms. But ResTech systems in the tour and activity space are very limited in terms of scale. Even FareHarbor, which is the largest, has 20,000 plus operators. When you think about it, that's actually not that many. When you consider that platforms like Facebook or Instagram or whoever have hundreds of millions of users and they pay $9.95, for example, for verification or their verified badge. When you've got hundreds of millions of users and only 10% of them sign up, that's still millions and millions of dollars in revenue. But for a platform that only has 20,000 users, it's very hard to make a lot of revenue on a subscription fee model. So that model tends to not be as popular. One company that did actually do quite well with that model is Checkfront, but they had tiered pricing models and they had extra charges for credit card fees and things like that. So it wasn't just subscription fees. They knew that they had to generate revenue from other sources as well. And so they had other services that you paid for that were on par with the most common model, which is a transaction fee. And transaction fees are probably the most common model in the restech space. In fact, when we launched ResGo in 2007, we actually started with a tiered pricing structure, ran it for a year. It was not great. The adoption was not great. We ran it for another year with what's called a freemium model, which means that it's free for everyone or you pay for extra, premium services. That model also was not particularly successful. The conversion rate was very low on that as well. And then we switched to a transaction fee model in 2009. So ResGo was actually the first restech in the market that offered a transaction fee model, and you could pass that fee on to the customer or you could absorb the fee as an operator. So actually when Douglas mentions listen for it in the conversation where, they kind of pioneered the whole transaction fee model, I have a bone to pick with that statement.
You're like, excuse me.
Excuse me. That was actually designed 4 years before FareHarbor launched. What FareHarbor did that was different, than what previous systems had done, is that they used the power of Stripe as a payments platform to unify payments across the system. That was, I think, the key difference between what they did with FareHarbor and what other systems like ResGo and others had done before, where they allowed the merchant to select whatever payments platform they wanted to use. And that really made the difference, because by doing that, they were able to shift the fee away from the operator and put it as a booking fee service charge to the consumer, which was a very different way to do it. So that way they could offer the service for free, in quotes, while generating the same, if not more, revenue than the other operators were providing. That became their key USP, their unique selling proposition, was that they were a free tool for the operator, which is why they were able to scale so quickly. That and their 400 salespeople.
Okay, well, that's some good background as we go into this conversation. So let's sail this ship into the FareHarbor conversation.
Nice. Nicely done.
Okay, here we go. Anchors away.
So much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
So I'm guessing by the introduction, you're from Italy.
Yes, I do. Yes, I'm from Italy. Yes.
So you're a booking guide, not originally actually a FareHarbor guy, if you will, right? So you came from the accommodation side of booking. I just always think it's interesting because other parts of travel, more mature in terms of technology, industry, process. Like I was saying at the first timer session, like you could spend every day and go to a hotel conference and still not get all of them, right, in the year. But in this industry, it's not quite the same. Like, what were your impressions coming from hotels to tours and activities? Like, what struck you? What have you learned from that?
Well, so I've been in this industry for 2 years now, so I've learned a lot, but I'm still learning every day. What I definitely saw is what you've also mentioned in your keynotes this morning, right? So that this is an industry that is really the heart, so the core of why people travel. And you don't see it only on the consumer side, you also see it on the operator side, right? So the operators are really passionate about their regions, the city, or the culinary angle of their countries that they represent. They are representing that passion into their product. They really want to make their location stand out in the global map, while I think sometimes hoteliers are a little bit more transactional. Their product is being commoditized. I saw quite a bit. I saw a room in a given hotel is very similar to a room in another hotel, while a food tour of Amsterdam is very different from a bike tour.
How do you approach that from from a technology perspective, you have, was it 20,000, 22,000 operators?
More than that.
FareHarbor?
So we're part of a public company, so we don't disclose the exact number.
Okay.
But we have more than that.
More than 22,000?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd imagine, I mean, because we go through this when we're designing each program at Arival. Should we do something for food tours, for bike tours, for bus tours, for attractions, for amusement? And there's so many different needs. I guess, what is it like to be in the room with your development and your product team? Like, do you build this? How do you go about that?
So there is a method in the madness, right? So we deploy multiple different, let's say, research methodologies to understand better the needs of our existing clients, the clients that are not yet with us. We try to understand the needs of consumers. And as we do this type of research, we also try to understand what is going to cross-pollinate the best, right, so within this industry. What we've learned is that it is a trial and error exercise. And what we've learned is that, for instance, functionalities that we build for, let's say, transportation companies like ferries end up being extremely viable also for other sub-niches of the tour activities and attractions. And we do things for bike rentals and end up being extremely viable for other type of operators. The art is trying to find, right, so that the minimum common denominator that is going to be big enough to make the functionality valuable without creating additional complexity in the tool for the majority of our clients.
There's so many booking systems in the market. There's a quote from somebody. I just want to read this to you and get your thoughts. So this is from, she posted this on LinkedIn, I think it was a week or two ago. This is Maria Ivolati. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing, but she leads LinkTwist, which is a new booking system provider in our industry. And she said, with OpenAI's latest updates, it's now possible to build a fully functional booking engine in 1 to 2 days. That used to take a whole company. So what's your impression of that?
So first, I think it's true that in the B2B space in general, there is rarely a winner-takes-all kind of setup. So if we look at CRMs, if we look at other form of softwares for the B2B environment, so there are usually multiple players. So I think it is possible to build, a very niche tour and activity attraction software with very little resources. I think it's true. Right? So because we have been able to count at least 2,000 players. So in this industry.
2,000. So we had about 200, but
exactly.
2,000.
Because there are already a lot of very small pictures. So maybe there are some companies here in Valencia that runs on a software was built by the cousin of the operator. So, and for their specific use case with very limited needs, it works. I think it's true that AI will help us, like many other technologies that have done it up till now. So will help us make things easier for a lot of us, but I don't know whether software development would be completely democratized to the point that everybody builds their own software.
Well, but so let me think about it a different way. There's so many booking systems out there, and we get the question all the time, like, oh well, like what software should I use? Or somebody goes and posts it, on Facebook, and then from what we've seen, most of the well-known platforms, they kind of do a lot of the same stuff. Right, like they handle the booking, they handle the inventory, they have a lot of connectivity, building out all the stuff. Like, what's going to happen in this space? Like, we've seen some consolidation. Why do we need so many systems? How do you set yourself apart? No, sorry, that's like three questions.
So many questions. So
okay.
I will try to answer them. Right. So yes, it's true. Right. So that on paper, everybody can build a given feature. Right. So. But I don't think that everybody is able to design it in a way that generates benefits for the user. So we spend a lot of time, I will give you an example. So a lot of our clients want to be able to combine different activities in one single package, or they want to upsell merchandising items during the funnel. Everybody can do it, but do it in a way that is going to help the consumer stay in the funnel, keep on converting at the same rate or better, and increase the value of the basket. It's as much art as science. Right? So my view is that yes, probably a lot of platforms offer the same set of functionalities, but those functionalities don't provide the same level of benefits to the operators or the consumers.
Well, but I would imagine, though, if I had the CEO of a few other booking systems up here, they would probably say, the same thing, right?
And it's probably true, right? So that they can claim that the same thing. The reason why I think we can say it is that we A/B test our changes. So we literally spend time, right? So with operators, try to understand, is these things driving more conversions for you, or is these things saving you time? And we try to answer it from a quantitative analytical standpoint.
Yeah, so that's, to me, like one of the interesting inferences of Maria's position there. So it commoditizes the core functionality, like the booking, so that's all done. So where does the booking system, add value?
Yeah, so let me start from another angle, and then we can get into the booking engine side, right? So first, if we were in this room, maybe early 2000s, discussing about how multiple different providers of mobile phones will be able to compete in this industry, because building a mobile phone back then was relatively easy. Many different companies were able to do it. It would be true, right? So a lot of companies can build an affordable mobile phones. But after 2007, we realized that there were only pretty much largely two operators that were able to build products that were really providing benefits to consumers, to the point that they became, the lion's share of the industry. And we can use this metaphor for many other technologies, right? So I think that the best technology, I don't think, is measured in how many features you have or how quickly you can build it, but is it truly helping? From our perspective at FareHarbor, so we try to do fundamentally two jobs for the operators. How do I help you make more money, and how do I help you save time? And we really try to focus and think about that benefit in real human terms. So I know that many of our operators, even though they have a large staff, the actual people running the business, they are an handful. So if the software doesn't save them time, it means they have no time with their families, right? So they have to go back home later. So we literally try to think, how do I build the software so that Doug can go home to his family 1 hour earlier, or Doug doesn't have to check certain things every Saturday and Sundays because they're automated. And we do the same things also on the making money, right? So we do know that for many of our operators, even though the online channel has grown, you have shown this data, maybe not today, right? So, but in other events, you have shown how at large in this industry, there's plenty of reservations that are still happening offline. And those offline bookings means a lot of manual labor that has to go into it. And sometimes for our operators, that means evenings, that means weekends. So we're really trying to make sure that this can be, a long-term successful business for our operators, because it's sustainable also from the amount of time they have to dedicate to the business.
Is there something that, like maybe an insight, something that you've seen as pretty common among operators, maybe, I don't want to say a mistake, but something a lot of your clients en masse really should be doing, but they're not, like common, I'd say, underutilization of software, or something maybe in their business as a process that they could be doing a lot better?
So I would say that I might be biased, right? So I might be wrong, right? But what I notice, many operators, not all, right? So many operators privilege certain channels over others, right? So thinking that a certain distribution thing is better, right? So than others. And I would say that
do you see a preference though when you talk
about
that?
So like it's definitely preference.
So OTAs versus direct. Is that?
There are companies that are, and I'm not judging, right? So I'm saying, so there are companies that have really designed and started their business as an OTA first company. Yeah. There are companies that have started their business as a direct online company. There are others that have built it because they have a great location, right? So they have a lot of foot traffic, right? So, and they can build, right? So a great business just by where they are located. What I've seen time and time again is that, and not just in this industry, is that put all of your eggs in one basket can create, issues. We've seen it yesterday, right? Yeah. So, sometimes you depend on certain things so much that you don't have alternatives. Without mentioning names, but we did have a couple of clients that were very dependent on one specific larger OTA. And the ranking, the algorithms of these OTA changes, and you move from having a very good positioning on that platform to one that is not as good. And by not having alternatives, you become so reliant on that thing that becomes a problem. I've seen other operators having a great foot traffic opportunity, and then roadblocks, changes in the way, right? So the municipality traffic moves the traffic around, and they don't have any more that. So I would say that the biggest opportunity our operators have in this industry is to have a variegated distribution strategy that sees as multiple different channels, not purely from a cost perspective, but from a multiple different angles. So who's going to give me last minute bookings versus early birds bookings? Who's going to give me access to opportunity to upsell, cross-sell?
So you're speaking really about having a diversified strategy. Now, one of the things I recall very clearly, especially from the FareHarbor kind of legacy from the original founders before it was acquired by Booking, and it was baked into the business model, this idea of direct, and in particular, direct online bookings.
Yes.
And the company was quite revolutionary, right? One of the first to introduce basically the consumer fee, right? FareHarbor is free to operators, like that was the message. And a 6% fee or something around that would be added on to the consumer booking at the end. And the fee was only for website booking. So anything through an OTA, and if I entered it manually in the back of the house, that was all free. So is that philosophy? I mean, there have been changes in your pricing model. Like, where is pricing going within the industry? And I'd love for you to talk about some of the changes that you've made at FareHarbor and why.
So where the industry is going is more difficult for me to predict. Right? So, but where we're going...
Well, but you're the biggest provider, so you're taking the industry.
And it is true that this industry before FareHarbor was a monthly recurring fee industry with potentially also setup fees. And we change it completely. We say, we don't want to benefit from this partnership unless we create benefits for you. So the model was we're going to make money only if the operator makes money. And I remember that it was 12 years ago, and the online channel for this industry was very, very low. Right? So to this day, it's still the two activity and attractions and experiences, you added a fourth leg, is in the travel industry, the industry with the share of online that is the lowest. Right? You can see it both as an opportunity, right? So we have plenty of opportunities because consumer behavior, so the desire for consumers to book these things online is definitely there. They book flights online, they book hotels online, car rentals online, so they will definitely do also this one. But the desire to do it from the operator standpoint was not there. So at the beginning, what we did was say, okay, we are going to offer you a product that helps you get booking when you are asleep, right? So because you will be able to, what I was saying before, so back then I saw operators will have to operate their tours all day and in the evenings manage their bookings. So we managed to save a lot of times and help a lot of those operators by offering them a tool that could allow them to get online bookings direct on their own website. What has happened in also past 12 years is that the amount of clients that had a different way of running their business that wanted also to use our platform kept on increasing. So we have operators that have maybe 70-80% of their bookings coming from OTAs. We have operators on our platforms that are using our platforms predominantly for offline bookings. So we wanted to reflect how our existing clients were using our product and also where the industry was going in the way we were offering the product, right? And we felt, okay, so how do we, if we continue with an, let's say, online booking fee only, how can we serve clients that wants to be predominantly OTAs?
But no, I get that, especially with the growth of OTAs. So when you introduced, it's a 2% API fee for OTA bookings. But I mean, there's been a lot of complaints in the industry. What do you say to the operators who are like, wait, this has been free, now I got to pay for it. What's the additional value?
So first, so we have added a lot of value, right? So on these OTA channels. So if we look at, when you get reservations from an OTA, you have to make sure that there's no overbookings. You have to make sure that the price was correct, that all the information is aligned correctly. We have to make sure that this information is available on multiple different OTAs, APIs. And if your booking, let's say, are predominantly OTAs, that means also all of your support tickets, all of the activities you're producing is on this channel. And by offering, a setup where, again, it's win-win-win. So if the food chain completely wins, including FareHarbor, we can reinvest energy into this product and make the product even better. I think that what is limiting in offering products for free, and I'm sure it's the same thing whether you organize events or you're producing research or if you're offering tours, is that there is a limit to what you can do with free. I think that after 10 years of developing the value product, we felt, okay, so we are pricing it in a way that there is definitely more value than the cost we charge. And even though no one ever likes a price increase, we have done it once in 12 years and we don't expect to do it constantly. So I think it allows us to have a broader reach to more operators that may want to use our software, but they may not want to grow their online direct channel.
Do you have anything, so you've got, more than 20,000 operators, right, using the system, so you have a lot of visibility.
Yes.
Into what's happening in the marketplace. What's your take, like when you see the growth of OTAs? Can you have some perspective or some kind of takeaway, especially for operators who are trying to balance that? Because we've seen for many, it's how do we address this?
So first, we've looked at the numbers, right? So we've tried to make analysis as much as possible like for like. So we look at our clients and we wanted to do it also through the lens of the pandemic, right? So because pandemic changed a lot of things. So we look at all of our clients we had before the pandemic that were, on our platforms for the full year of 2000, at least from the last day of 2018, and they were still on our platforms in 2024. So they were exactly the same operators, and we saw that in markets like Europe, right, so the share of OTAs have increased, right? So on average for those clients has increased from 31% to 44%. While we've seen it, for instance, in the US, there was also an increase, but was significantly more modest. So yes, it's true that some type of operators and some type of activities are more likely to find demand on OTAs. I definitely think that it is a good thing that there are more distribution opportunities. I think that the focusing only on the cost of distribution, it's, in my opinion, a mistake. Let's take an example of, let's say, a boat tour, right? So a boat tour that is going to leave, the cost of Valencia, right? So here, let's say that this boat has 20 seats. If the boat leaves the harbor, right, so with 4 seats empty, it's a big loss, right? So even if you sell them at an high commission on an OTA, it will still be more money, right? So for the operator at the end of the day. So I don't think that all bookings should be treated equally, right? So not all the time. So the commissions that OTA charge should be perceived as too high. And actually, I think that sometimes it's actually...
How many do you connect with? How many?
We connect with more than 250 OTAs.
250 resellers.
Yes.
You also have this interesting model within FareHarbor of a distribution network. So I, as an operator or as a reseller, I can go in and say, hey, give me all your channels, or I can go in and say, hey, give me all the supply that's hooked up. But in some cases, you've also got direct operator to reseller contracts. So I have both options. Where's the industry from that standpoint? Is the future in kind of an all-in-one, distribution, one contract, one commission, or facilitating one-to-one relationships between the operator and the reseller?
I think sorry if the answer is too basic, but the answer is probably both, right? So you have found in a given OTAs a good fit for your product and you want to have a direct relationship, but you also realize that, for a certain time of the years, let's say an operator in Valencia so may not have Japan as an important feeding market all the time, right? So, but do you want to completely restrict your opportunity to be distributed there? For those situations, a FareHarbor distribution network is perfect, right? You say, look, it's good to have, but I don't want to manage that relationship one-to-one, while for, let's say, large OTAs that drives a very large amount of transactions for me, I want to have that relationship directly. So I can see that both can fit the needs of our operators.
You've got, again, because so many operators, can you share a little bit on what's happening in the marketplace? I talked a bit this morning about just economic uncertainty.
Yes.
Are you seeing things kind of everything going great? Are you seeing a little bit of slowdown anywhere?
So first, so you have also mentioned it, and other speakers have mentioned it, this industry is impacted by weather, right? So not necessarily cataclysmatic events or global warming, so just weather, right? So much more than others. So even though we have a large base of clients, we see a lot of fluctuations because, let's say, you have, when was it? I don't remember, it was last year, so, but there was a situation in the Gulf of Mexico, or the Gulf of America now, where the sargasso, so this specific weed, so in the oceans, so there was an epidemic of sargasso. So therefore, a lot of customers didn't want to go out on boats. So it's very difficult to separate the trends, right? So the very long-term trends, like a recession, from the short-term trends of this type of situations. Right now, we don't see that many issues. What we do see is that, going back to the research I was mentioning before, is that we see first that consumers are shifting more and more, so nothing particularly new, right? So to book all activities, whether they are last minute or with the large book windows, on their mobile devices. So we see that for all of our clients, more than 75% of all the bookings are happening on a mobile device. Why I mention because it's important, because sometimes operators think about their website from their laptop or their big screen, but it's not how consumers also perceive their entry point to the internet. Or also how their product is seen on Viator, right? Or Get Your Guide, right? So you have to think how it's going to look on a small screen, right? So what type of pictures I need to have to make sure that I pop there? What type of description I need to have in those situations? And one of the exercises, for instance, we do with our clients when we have events is to, and maybe something you guys can do right, among each other, is to go on each other's website on your phone and try to critique or be the booker, what we say to our clients, be the booker for the other operators. Because sometimes you develop myopia, right? So you think your website is perfect, your content is perfect.
So like doing some mystery shopping to see.
Yes, exactly.
So I like to wrap things up with something a little different, a little fun. So we're going to do a word game. I've done this before. I call it either or. So for example, I could say vanilla or chocolate, and you could say, okay, so I give you two options. You choose one, right? That's easy. Easy, right?
Easy.
Okay. Okay, wine or beer?
Chocolate. Oh, sorry. Neither. So I've stopped drinking alcohol 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, this is off to a great start. Okay. Amsterdam or Italy?
Italy is bigger.
Tours or attractions?
Tours.
Food tour or walking tour?
Can I answer a little bit wider?
No.
Food tours. I've never done it before. So I've only learned about food tours joining this industry. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Okay. A famous site or off the beaten path?
Off the beaten path.
OTA or direct?
Both.
Airbnb or booking?
Both.
Oh,
yes.
You allowed to say that? Okay,
yes.
That's great. Okay, Get Your Guide or Viator?
Both.
Okay, Boken or Ventrada?
What, sorry?
Boken or Ventrada?
Neither.
Reading or scrolling?
Reading.
TV or TikTok?
TV.
Gemini or ChatGPT?
Gemini.
AI or humans?
Humans.
Tesla or Mercedes?
Tesla.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't read too much into it.
Okay. Elon Musk or Marine Le Pen?
Ooh, this is very difficult. I think I'm gonna go for Musk.
Tariffs or torture?
Ooh, wow. Tariffs are better than torture.
2% or free? Take your time.
I'm gonna take my time. Right? So I think
that was not one of the options, but
2%.
2%. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Andrea Carini.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so what stood out to you from that discussion?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing that stuck out to me is the fact that FareHarbor, although it's the biggest in terms of the number of operators that it has on its platform, other than perhaps the acquisition of Regiondo, Checkfront, and Resdi combination, I think they estimated the number of operators at around 15,000 or something like that. Other than that, FareHarbor has over 20,000 operators on their platform. But when you consider that the larger population of operators worldwide, estimated by Arival, is over 1 million, that means that the market is still untapped in terms of the number of operators that are available to use booking platforms. So if you are, my message to technology providers is, just because FareHarbor is the biggest on the market, they're still, when you consider how big the market is, they don't have a very large proportion of the operators that exist on the market. So, and that market's worldwide. So you could look to Asia, you could look to other regions, you could look at providing niche products to particular verticals. That's where I think the opportunity lies, because even Andrea mentioned when he was talking about product that it's difficult to build something that is for everyone, right?
Right.
Bike tours have different needs than ferry operators, although he also said the opposite is true, that sometimes, a feature that they build for one type of customer actually benefits other types of customers, but the opposite is true as well.
Right.
So it's one of those things where you can't build, one ring to rule them all. Doesn't exist.
Well, and there are so
Doesn't really
many,
exist in tech, right?
there are so many booking systems, restechs, whatever you want to call them out there. Like Arival has the guide how to choose a booking system, and to create that guide, we went through a very long list of potential, tours and activities focused booking system providers, and there's so many of them, and it's hard to find your way through them because they want to appeal to everyone. So a lot of them say it's for everyone, but you have to go in yourself as an operator and figure out, okay, which one's actually going to work best for me and has the features that I want. So I'll drop that in the show notes if anyone out there is thinking they're looking for a booking system. But yeah, there's anything else that stood out to you from the conversation?
Yeah, I think just the discussion around product was really interesting. And also during the rapid fire, yes, no questions at the end with Douglas, I'll take offense on behalf of Entrada and Boken that he said no or neither to both of them. He said for distribution, I think it was Viator or Get Your Guide, and he said both. And then the question was Ventrada or Boken, and he said neither. And I was like, there's room. Ventrada's a great product. Boken is also a great product. And FareHarbor is an equally great product. The differences are in the scale and the target market that exists, and they all offer something different. So I think there is room for everyone. I still believe there is room for everyone to play. That's sort of the approach that I took when I was with Resgo, and when we were very early in the ResTech days. It was a case of there's lots of room for everybody. Build something that people want, that serves a particular need. Try to be different in your approach. There are the basics. Douglas said that, a lot of the systems that come on the market all do the same thing. They have to do the same thing. The basics are the basics, right? It's what you do on top of those basics. It's how you innovate on top of those basics that I think differentiates your product from other products. And that's where you got to find, your niche. So helicopter tours, very different. Right. They have very, very specific requirements, weight and balance, seat allocation, flight plans, all kinds of aviation related requirements that you just can't build into a system where the majority of your customers are kayaking tours, right?
Right.
So sometimes you've got to build for the niche that you're interested in and that you see the most opportunity in. So that's what I got out of that is that there's still lots of room, and be innovative and creative in what you build.
Yeah, well, and then it goes both ways too, right? It's if you're booking boat tours, you have very specific requirements for things that you need to know. You might even need to know if a passenger knows how to swim. So, there's a lot of different things that very specific niche segments need that may or may not be built into the booking system. but you might need them to be. So one of the things I thought was interesting from the conversation is just this idea of like, where is the booking tech landscape going? From where it started, what's coming next, and how are booking systems and operators dealing with the changes that are happening in the wider technology space right now? So one of the things that's come up with FareHarbor specifically is adding the API booking fee for third-party bookings. And I've spoken with a number of operators, more than a few, who are frustrated with that. They are not happy. But I've also spoken with some operators who are like, yeah, we get it. It makes sense. More bookings are going through OTAs now. More bookings are going through online, Viator, Get Your Guide, these online channels. And so it makes sense if the system has to start charging extra for that in order to be viable. I've spoken with some other booking system executives who will remain unnamed because we had secret conversations, not secret, confidential. But there was this off the record is this general sentiment, whether or not the particular exec I spoke with worked with a company that charged this fee or not. They seem to agree this is the direction the industry is heading. So what's your take on that?
Well, my take is when Resgo developed the transaction fee back in 2009, we charged 5% for web bookings and 1% for back office and API bookings. So most systems have been charging for back office and API bookings for a very long time. The reason why FareHarbor didn't is because it gave them a competitive advantage. They were charging 6.5% on the front end, where most systems were charging 5% or less. So they were charging more on the front end, and that was compensating for the fact that they weren't making any money on the back end. But what they realized is that they have to. So all they did was play catch up and then end up charging more for back end bookings than most of the systems do that are already out there, who are already charging back office fees. So people that were like, oh, I don't want to pay back office fees would migrate to FareHarbor. And then now they're paying the same as everybody else anyway. So it's really just a matter of catch up. I think it's, most of the systems now kind of charge similar fees. So you're seeing it's going to cost you about the same, regardless of what platform you go to. It's just a case of finding the one that serves your specific needs the best. But the whole idea that this is something new, it's not new. Back office fees have been around for what now? 15 years. So
yeah. But I think the question though, which I think is a valid question, is what's the added value if you're adding fees? And he did speak to this a little bit. I don't know how satisfied operators will be with his answer, but it's a valid question. What should booking systems be doing if they need to charge more? Should they be adding more features, or should they just focus on making sure their core product is really solid? Because I've heard both perspectives from the operator side of things. Some people are very much into the all-in-one platform. They want the booking system plus, plus, plus. And some people are like, no, we just want the booking system to do that one thing really well, and we'll figure out other solutions for the other things that work together.
Yeah, I think if the booking solution, this is the challenge that FareHarbor has by charging this fee, is that because they never charged the fee before, they have to justify why they're adding 2% on all those bookings. We didn't have that problem to begin with. Resgo always just said it's 1% for back office bookings. And the reason is because we believe the value that you get by using Resgo as the all-in-one solution, or whatever the platform is, it's managed with all your other bookings. There's no overbooking. You get, updated inventory, customer manifests, reporting, all that sort of stuff, right? So you get all of that benefit. So the added benefit between the 1% and the 5% is that web booking component. It's the self-service component. So that's the way that it was differentiated for us. But when you're starting with free, it's hard to add on a fee, because now you have to justify why it went from free to something else. And that's the challenge that FareHarbor has. So that's up to them to figure out. Everybody else already figured it out. They just have, 20,000 operators that they've got to convince that it's a good idea and that they're adding value. I don't know.
Yeah. And then I guess the other thing is we kind of joked around about AI at the beginning, but what about AI? You know, is that going to make booking systems obsolete if people can just get AI to program them a booking system that works for them? Or do you see, I think they have to work it into their platforms, right? Like they have to bring it in some
Yeah.
way.
Are people going to be building their own bespoke booking systems with
Yeah.
AI? I mean, if it gets to the point where you can do all the integrations that you need by, writing a prompt to Chat GPT, more power to you. I mean,
We want to know
you
if you
know,
do that. We want to know.
yeah, if there are operators out there who have figured out how to write a prompt that
Yeah.
in Chat GPT or Gemini or whatever that is able to generate a fully functioning inventory management system, custom CRM reporting platform with web booking that does all the connections to all the res techs that you need and manages all of the relationships and pricing and all that. Let us know, because I would love to see that prompt.
Yeah.
But for now, I will believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I saw Captain Book. Do you know Captain Book?
Yep.
I think they're like a boat tour and rental focused booking
Platform.
platform.
Yeah. One of those niche, kind of nichey ones.
Yeah. They just
Yeah.
they just announced that they're launching an AI assistant for their platform. So they're on it. Like some platforms are getting there, and I think we'll probably see more going in that direction.
Yeah. Where I'm really seeing AI used in these platforms is in the support mechanisms around documentation, making it easier to find like how to do things in the platform. Because a lot of these systems are quite complex. They have a lot of features. And a lot of people, out of the 100% of features that are available, most people are probably using maybe 40% of the features that are available because they just don't have the time or wherewithal to learn everything that a system can do. So I've seen AI used for that in order to help increase the adoption of features within a platform. I've also seen it used for things like helping to write descriptions or create better listings, for example, in the platform itself. So things, generative AI type stuff.
Yeah.
That's most of it, though. I haven't seen much else at this stage. Oh, except for like Peak with their dynamic pricing. That's AI powered, which is really interesting.
We have to
Yeah.
mention that. They talked
Yeah.
about that. They were actually the winner of the innovation showcase in San Diego for
Yeah.
that. And we
Yeah.
got to try out their virtual headsets. So
Yes. Yeah. That was very
yeah,
cool.
they're doing some interesting stuff as well. So it's happening. It's
Mhm.
happening.
It's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, cool. So we'll share the link for the how to choose a booking system in the show notes. And I think we also have a pricing guide. So if you are kind of in the process of exploring getting a booking system or changing booking systems, you can check out those resources. And we will see you on the next episode, which at present moment, the topic is a secret. So come back and you'll find out next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Best Part of Travel. Make sure you visit Arival.Travel and check out the latest pricing for Arival's upcoming events. And don't forget to tell your friends to follow The Best Part of Travel. We'll see you next time.